All right, hey, and welcome to Things Worth Learning. I'm your host, Matt Stauffer. This is a show where a curious computer programmer, why did I make an intro that is so hard to say? A curious computer programmer, that's me, interviews fascinating people about their passions. And my guest today is my friend, Shawn Jones, a programmer at Tighten. Shawn, would you mind telling the audience a little bit about yourself, whether it's your personal or your professional life?
Sure. So me, I am native born from Kentucky. I currently live out in St. Louis. I'm married. I have 4 kids. Programming is actually probably the 3rd or 4th career I've had. I've had passions in being a sound mixing engineer, and I went to school for that, as well as trying to get into the film industry. I went to school for that too and worked in the industry for a small bit. And then I kind of moved to St. Louis and landed in actual programming, which I've been doing for the last 7 years. So yeah, I'm basically a weird jack of all trades in some situations, and I kind of take lessons from certain parts of my life and put it into others, and just generally enjoy maneuvering. So
love it. Yeah, Shawn's reputation around Tighten is definitely like that. If there's something interesting to be done, he's probably done it before, figured it out, taught himself on YouTube or whatever else it is. Like, we've watched this man take apart like entire houses down to the studs and then build them back up while still working a full-time job and being a full-time dad. So pretty freaking impressive human being. All right, so Shawn, do you have any life mantra or phrase or idea that you try to live your life by?
I have a few. Okay, so a lot of them are going to be based on my military experience. So the first one is Hey Leon. You might have seen me type this in a few places or like end it in an email. Hey Leon was a battle cry for the branch. I was in the Army for the particular company that we worked on. So a lot of folks don't know, you actually, when you're working for a particular company, you get to choose the cry that you want to you snap to. So usually when they call like a dismiss or like come to attention, you usually yell this cry out. And so at our company, we yelled out Hey Leon. So we were a signal company out in Hawaii, and Hey Leon is from that particular language out in Hawaii, and it basically just means to move forward, right? Okay. And so with that, I think you can actually, you might see some variation of it in Hawaii. I think that's what they kind of name their bus service, is like Hey Le or something like that. And it just means to move. But like they basically, we took it and it was like, you know, just means to move forward. Basically, don't let anything stop you. Just kind of sort of progress, right? Okay. So there's that one. There's another one where I was in the service and it was a very simple task. We were in basic training and the drill sergeant said, build your foxhole to you. And so if you don't know what a foxhole is, they're really prevalent back in like World War I, World War II, where it's like during trench warfare. And you had to build this basically like 3 foot wide by 8 foot long, maybe 5, 6 foot deep, just hole in the ground, right? Right. Very similar to like a grave, which is sort of morbid, but it was just one of those things where you would build it. And then this is a place where like you would be in the ground and you would stand on a corner and you would, you'd have like your ammunition and stuff in the center of the hole, right? And there'd be 2 people to a hole. But the crazy thing that he said about that was, he's like, yo, don't build it like they're not all standard, right? They're not all going to be like 6 feet this. Like I'm a 5'6" person, so hey, you know, if you're 5'6", then you know, build it to be 5'6". If you're this, build it to be that. If you need sandbags to rest your arm on while you're holding your weapon, use your sandbags. If you need this, just add it. But like basically build it to you so you can fight efficiently. Right. And so I've always remembered that in senses of when I'm transferring from different industries or when I'm working on a particular project and it's kind of like, hey, I don't understand how to tackle this task. I'll probably take 5 seconds and just think about, you know, why does this not work for me as it's working for this other person? Why can I not grasp it in the way that I need to? And then I take a step back and I'm like, all right, cool. This doesn't work for me. Let me build it around me. Let me make it work the way I need to work for me. So that's basically helped me in a variety of different situations where like I'm transferring from career to career or I'm learning a new skill and I need to actually sort of make it fit around like what I can do at the time. Like maybe I don't have the money to do the skill, to buy the tools for the skill, or I don't have the space or something like that. It's like, all right, cool. How can I make it work around me? What can I do? Like just basically don't keep yourself in a box thinking like you got to do the thing from point
a certain way, B. Right?
Yeah, exactly. And then last one that I'm learning recently, which is kind of cool, is genius learn to do what is needed joyfully. Okay. So crazy thing here, I ran into this guru online on social media, and it kind of links back to the thing that I've been chasing my entire life, right? So when I was young, I was very infatuated with a legacy and leaving things to be remembered by. And I think that's what made a lot of my decisions for my career. So the reason why I wanted to be like a mixing engineer is because to me, music lasts forever. Like you hear a song and it's like, it's always going to be there. And I wanted to be a part of that magic. Same thing with movies. It was like, you know, I want to just like maybe have my name on the screen, a part of a project that's going to last forever, that's going to like resonate with folks. Right. So it was a bit of a struggle when I switched from that to like maybe programming. Right. I got the service bit, but it wasn't one of those things where it's like, hey, you're not really going to be remembered for creating these things. Right. It's in sort of like, there's no sort of like win there, but like, what does it take from that? And I realized that I didn't have to get it from my job. I can actually get it from other external sources in my life. So that's basically meaning have a profound impact on others in the sense of just the essence of doing a good thing for somebody else. Right. So one of the things could be like recently when I was building a deck, and I'm building a deck, I'm building it for not my family, for someone else's family, for, you know, and then I'm thinking of like, oh, what's the profound effect for this? Oh, well, the win here is, my sobrina, which is my niece, she gets to grow up with a deck, right? Yes, she gets to have that experience of like having barbecues on this deck in the summer, and like, you know, taking certain pictures for like Halloween and like just just gatherings and things like that. And so like not even for her, but for the family. And so like it's having that profound effect where like it's an essence where it'll stay, and then eventually maybe she's like 20, 30 years down the road, she's like, you know what, I always had that deck. I want to have another one when I'm, you know, in my own house, so on and so forth. So it's like that sort of impact, right? And so there's the genius in that. It's like you're kind of doing something that's needed, that's impactful. And
that's really cool.
And the cool thing is like it's not for you, it's for somebody else. So it gets to kind of grow. So that's sort of like the cool legacy thing that I'm finding now. It's like doing little small things like that, or just doing that extra nudge in the hopes that, hey, I don't need it to benefit me. I just need it to, hopefully it's a good thing that you like, I loved it when this person did this thing for me, and I hope to do that for the next person, like sort of take that win. But yeah, mostly those three.
I love that. And that last one I think is really special for me because when I was building my deck, for those who don't know, I built a deck very publicly on my Instagram stories and very slowly because I was like learning as I went. Although Shawn was one of the people who helped me learn at the beginning. Thank you, Shawn. And people would message me and say, this reminds me of when my dad or my brothers or my uncle or my mom or whoever built a deck growing up. And it was so impactful. And so the idea for me of like T.O. Shawn's deck being like, you know, like that she's going to remember that and she's going to be on that deck and the whole family's going to be like, oh, this is T.O. Shawn's deck or whatever. That gave me goosebumps, man. Like, I love that idea. And like, I don't know if my kids feel that way about the deck that I built. You know, it's a little bit different when I'm building it for my family, but the idea of doing those things. And I mean, I've also met people who you've mentored. Like Shawn was an instructor at a code academy called LaunchCode for ages. And I've met people who have been mentored by Shawn. I've met quite a few of them. And the way they talk about this man, sir, you have legacies. And you're out here like putting people in positions. I mean, one of them works at Tighten right now, and she talks about you almost every single time we have one-on-one about something that you've done either recently or in the past. So yeah, you're building legacies, my friend. So I love that.
Awesome.
All right. So after I got my emotional moment of the day, you know, we're actually talking about something specific. And usually I know ahead of time what we're talking about. Today, I don't even know. You mentioned your garage, so I have a bit of a sense. But what are we actually talking about today? What's our one topic? Well,
our talk it's mostly going to be about, I want to encourage people to be makers for the sense of freedom, right? And be builders, right? And that kind of sort of ties into kind of like what I mentioned a little bit on that last sort of ideology that I follow. And I think everybody should be a builder or maker, like a physical builder or maker in some field. So it doesn't even have to be carpentry. I think it can be knitting, it can be, you know, it can be bakery, it can be any sort of thing. But I think we all need to have like that one thing that's like not tied to a job, that's just like a hobby that you love, that you can then share with other people, and then that it can affect them in a positive way. So that's the talk today, is to like encourage people to be builders. Yeah.
Wow. So, I mean, I know that you're a builder. So the experiences I've had with you as a builder, and I think we can start there, but I do want to like go to your broader ideology soon. But like, let's set some groundwork. Like, so we've talked about the fact that you ripped your house down to the studs and literally rebuilt almost the whole house from scratch. We talked about the fact that you built a deck from scratch. What other kind of stuff? And I know this, but like for the audience, like what other sorts of things have you been building recently? Because I've seen some really cool ones that I love, but I may not even know everything. So what has your physical output been, you know, over the last couple of years?
It's been very slow. So my physical output, unfortunately, for the last year, I've been building this chest, this toy chest. And so the thing is with me is like, I'm still in my learning phase, even though like you ask me a question, I can like spit it out. I'm still like, I go really slow with learning a new particular skill. And so I'm on YouTube, like watching stuff, and getting inspired by things. And so now I'm building this toy chest, and the original idea came up with my friend. We served in the military together. So I've known him since 2003. And he's a guy who I go and visit him. He lives in Dallas, once or twice a summer. And he had sent me a photo, and he knows that I'm doing woodworking. I share all of my experience with him. And so he sent me a photo, and he's like, hey, what do you think of this box? And it was like a very simple box, and it had geometric shapes on the front of it. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, okay, yeah, sure, it looks cool. And then I'm thinking, like, I get this as like, maybe he didn't really ask me. I think what is more so I was like, hey, I can build that for you if you want to. And he's like, oh yeah, sure, no problem. And I was like, cool. So then I needed the challenge of, hey, how do I make shapes? I've actually never made a box before. I've been doing this for several years. I've never made like a complete,
just a box. Yeah.
Just a box. And that's like the most basic thing you could do as a furniture maker, woodworker. So I was like, yeah, I never made a box before. This seems like this is a new thing. I want to do some crazy angles and shapes on it. That makes sense. I want to try some different sort of joinery on this. So I was like, yeah, this is the perfect project for me to take on right now. And so I go to what do we use? We use SketchUp. So I go to SketchUp and just kind of draft a box, and I show it to him. And he's like, whoa. I was like, what do you think? It's like, and at first he told me, he's like, I was thinking the photo had, it was like a box next to a fireplace. So I initially had the intentions of it being like maybe something's going to store wood in or something like that. He's like, oh, he's like, we're thinking of sort of like a box like this to hold toys in for like my granddaughter. And I was like, oh yeah, perfect. Like I'm all in now. This is game. Yeah. So like this is exactly where I want to be. So
love it.
It's like, yeah. And it's like perfect. And so midway designing it, her name is, I believe, like Nova. So midway designing it, I was like, oh yeah, it reminds me of like the North Star. So why not just make it with mountains and then have like sort of like a star in the middle, and like it sort of fit her as an individual, right? Just like her name or whatever. Yeah. And so then I showed them the photo, and they're like, are you serious? I was like, yeah. Like
that was my look when I saw what you're building, man. It's amazing.
Yeah. So I was like, yeah, let's go for it. And that was the thing. I was like, yeah, sure. So that was last year, right? So I think I drew it out. We had the conversation. That was last year. I've seen them twice since then, and I'm telling like, yeah, it's going to be done soon. I just ran into these problems, but that's the thing I love with that trade-off. It's like, hey, I'll build it for you, but let's just not keep it on a timeline.
Yeah, it's going to take a minute.
It's going to take a minute. And I'm also like, because I'm building it and it's sort of like a project of mine, like I'm not asking him to pay me for materials or anything like that. Like I just want to build it. And then once it's built, I'm like about, I don't know, 3/4 of the way there. Then I'm going to take it down to him and drop it off and then let him deliver it to his granddaughter. Right. So
I love that.
And the cool things I'm learning out about this is he told me, it's like, oh yeah, I remember when I think he said like my uncle built a toy chest for me and my brother, and it still lived in a room for some time. So he was like all about this idea, and I was like, like this is like, I love those types of gifts that like, even though they're like not immediately usable to a particular person, like they just have a meaning behind them, and they just kind of resonate things
just to stay on, right? Yeah.
So
that's cool. I mean, obviously, you know that I'm a woodworking nerd, so I'd love to go there. But today we're not talking about woodworking, so we're not going to do that. But you already referenced a whole bunch of things in this piece of the conversation that I think that are super relevant, because we've talked about like you are getting a lot of joy from being able to make this. You're learning something, have fun learning it. It's providing like a lasting value to someone, but it's also something really special, right? Like the fact that you're making it is special in part because you're doing all this special work. It's Nova. It's connected to her in a way that no other thing would be able to be. But it's also special because like she may not know you, but like he does. And like he's going to see that thing every single time, and he's going to say like, oh my God, this person who I know and love created this for me. And she'll like, my kids have a couple things that someone they've never met made for them, like a quilt that one of my friends made, and they met her like once or something like that, but they still know it was made for them. And that really means a lot to people. And I kind of imagine that there's a couple different facets of what you like about each person being a maker, and I may have touched on a couple of them, but as you think about it, like when you encourage someone and someone says, you're telling me I got to take another thing and do another thing in my life, I'm already so busy, can you give me the pitch, like what's the benefits that come? Why should everyone be a maker, a physical maker?
So like just start in and work out, right? So the immediate benefit is you get to learn yourself. And I think that's my main benefit. That's why I don't even do it for money. It's like when I'm working on a project, I'm creating something like that box I don't even know how to do. Like, I didn't even have half the tools. That's why it's taking so long. Like, I've never done any of that stuff before. And it's like, all right, cool. I'm going to put myself in this situation that I have to move through it and kind of figure it out. And not only figure out, like, how to complete it, but figure out how I would tackle it, how I envision it, and how I just want to just maneuver it, just maneuver around it. And so I think we need that as individuals, because a lot of us don't get that in our day to day, right? Some of us are just like, hey, we're kind of happy to kind of work, go home and be cool. And then we hit an unforeseen circumstance, and now we have to figure out how to work through the circumstance, right? And a lot of that time, most folks are frantic, right? They're like, I don't know how to handle this situation, and like, what do I do? So on and so forth. And it's like, and they get anxiety, and some folks, they bail out, like, they kind of have that flight sense, and they're like, all right, cool, I can't deal with this right now. And so I think just by doing that, being a maker, you're going to put yourself in places where like you have to learn and work through it, of course. And then on top of that, you're just learning how to learn, and you're learning how you learn specifically. And that's one of the things, like when I was teaching folks, I was like, hey, look, I'm not like I'm in front of folks at LaunchCode, I'm teaching them, and I'm like, hey, I'm not teaching you Java so you learn Java. I'm teaching you how to learn so you can learn the next thing, right?
That's good.
And so that's
good.
what this point is. It's about grappling the idea of like, maybe you don't learn by an example. Maybe you need to learn with hands-on. Maybe you need to have somebody like teach you step by step. So that way, when you go and learn the next thing, you can look for that. You can ask for that, as opposed to like say, I don't know. Right. And then that's where like a lot of young folks, especially my kids, I'm like, hey, how do you do this? I'm like, no, I don't know. They don't even know how to start the problem or figure it out. And I'm like, no, you've got all the tools in the world. Like, I'm like that dad, like you got YouTube and stuff. I didn't even have this when I was your age. Right.
Yeah, no kidding.
And so, but they're like, they don't even know how to use the tools. And so like, that's one of those things where, I'm like, wow, this is crazy that we put them in a great position to succeed and to win, and they don't even know how to use the tools to win because they don't know themselves, and they don't know how they learn yet, right? So there's that part. And then the other part is just, you're finding your genius and you're letting it flower, right? When you're giving that gift to somebody else that they need. And it's not for you. It's not for you. It's for them, right? And that kind of like gives that little intrinsic win, like also like a sense of like pride too. Yeah. Because like every time I go over to like that deck has been out in the sun for like 2 years. It's got furniture everywhere. There's toys outside. It's theirs, right? But every time I look out there, I'm like, yo, I did that. This is amazing. Every time I step on it, I'm making sure it's still level.
Yeah,
like, still level.
Still level.
You know what I'm saying? It's so like, okay, cool. Like it doesn't need any work. And like the fact that it's standing the test of time as well. Right? Yeah. Nothing looks like you used the right bolts. It's not rusting.
Nothing's rusting. Exactly.
The wood's not, what do they say? It's like, it's not molding over because you use the right type of wood. It has a solid connection. Everything's still solid. It's been 2-3 years. And then like, who knows? You go back, maybe they're not living in the house no more. Another family's there. The deck is still there. You drive by. It's, you know what I'm saying? So it's a sense of winning on an external, like, yo, I did that and I'm proud, I'm proud of that. And I think that's where a lot of, like blue collar, just regular workers, like, your plumbers, your electricians, things like that. I think they get that sort of win too, right? And I think a lot of folks need that, because a lot of times we work in our job and you do something for a company, you go home, it's not yours, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so like to have something physically tangible in the world that exists that's yours is awesome. And
I love that.
And then, just the essence of it, right? Just the essence of it. You've got the 2 wins for yourself, but then the essence of it inspiring others. And to kind of like accept something of value for themselves that they enjoy and love. Like the main reason why this is a crazy thing. So going back to the house, when I was rebuilding the house, it's my wife's house, right? And I met my wife online, and I was living in Los Angeles. She's living in St. Louis. And so I flew to St. Louis, and I have been dating several people. Right. Like, all right. And so I met this woman. I was like, oh, yeah, she's it. Right. And the reason why I got to meet her was because I came into this house in 2011, and it actually reminded me of my home in Kentucky. It was like sort of the same level of living. Like, hey, it's simple. This is what we got. Nothing crazy. And it didn't have to be anything special, but it was kind of warm and inviting. Right. But it just didn't fit. Like, it just reminded me of everything I had in like the 80s and 90s when I was growing up. Yeah. So fast forward to 2018, I'm sitting in the same house and I don't like it. Right. I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, oh, like this doesn't fit me now, or it doesn't resonate with me. Like it doesn't give me joy, or like I feel like I'm in the past when I should be in the future. And I feel like I should have new things. And I think I just gutted the house. I had no money set up for this. I think I had like maybe $3 or $5 grand to do the floor. And midway through the project, I was like, yo, we're taking down everything. I don't like anything, right? Because the whole project was like, let's just fix the subfloor so we can get a level so we can lay down flooring. I was like, you know what? I don't like these walls. I don't like this bathroom. I don't like this kitchen. Like, let's just gut it and we'll just figure it out later. And so I remember gutting it and then building on it and then being able to add the floors that I like and being able to add the colors that I like. And in my mind, of course, every weekend I was tired and I was drained and so on and so forth. But I kept thinking, you know what, this is going to make a place for my kids to where like they will accept nothing less than what they're growing up in now. You're right. Cause like I was still sort of attached to that when I was, you know, I'm 38 now. And like, I was still attached to that when I showed up at a house 11 years ago. And so like, I'm hoping that now I'm like, hey, look, this is a modern style living that I want you guys to go in and accept nothing less than here. Right. Because you usually only ask for what you know. Instead of like what you probably should want for yourself that's higher value. So it's just having the, like being a builder, having that impact on others in that sort of way. Like now my kids are growing up in something, well, we're not even there anymore. We've moved, but like now their kids are growing up in something where like now they won't accept anything less than what that is, right? Whether they move and rent something or whether they move and decide to get their own house. They're like, they have a new level standard of living that they want for themselves. So that's impactful too.
Yeah, and you helped that family who's now in that house have an experience there that they would not have had you not done the work of the house before them being there. So even like you keep saying, like your network of people that you're having this influence on is kind of like going further and further. You said a couple of things here that I like all have been percolating in my brain. One of the things you said earlier was about you want to teach people how to learn, and it's really interesting to me because so when I started dating my girlfriend, one of the things that she said was, I really love that you're really handy. You built a deck, you just pointed to different projects I've done around the house. And kind of her idea was like, well, maybe it's because you're like one of the last generations, because a lot of guys these days don't know these things. So I was like, every single thing I did, I learned on YouTube. You know what I mean? Like I didn't grow up doing that stuff. And granted, like my dad rebuilt a playhouse and I got to help with that a little bit. And then I was in Cub Scouts and we did like little things in Cub Scouts. So it piqued my interest, but it didn't give me the skills I'm taking today. I'm like, no, what I'm doing right now, I learned on YouTube a month ago, right? So it's, granted, YouTube is wonderful, but like, there's a lot of people who know YouTube exists who are in their 20s and even 30s today who don't have that like ability to go and just say, I have everything in the world that I need to learn this skill to go do this thing. And so that's really interesting because that was what was on my brain earlier. And then when you said what you just said, I realized you're also giving that skill to your kids. When you're doing it intentionally, yes, but even when you're not doing it intentionally, they watched you rebuild that entire house. And I'm pretty sure that they knew you didn't know that beforehand, right? So you're not just telling the words to your kids that like, this is something that can be done and you have the ability to do this. You're also giving them the example, which kids learn by way more than our words, right?
Exactly.
You're giving them the example that like, if dad did this, because again, with the deck, the number of people who messaged me saying, wow, I could never do anything like that. But in the message of them saying that, they also realized that like they had watched family members do stuff like that. And I think they're starting to realize that those family members did not have access to something they don't. Now, maybe they had access to a parent or whatever who trained them, but they didn't have access to YouTube, right? So like, I just love that you're setting this example for people that you have everything you need. And we just live in this place of like, I can't do it because I never learned. I can't do it because I don't have the tools yet. And you're like, nah, it's going to happen. Like, and that was one of your mantras, right? Like the Haleon, like we're going to
forward. Yeah.
Right. Move it forward. I love how these all connect together. So you mentioned the fact that you're learning a lot about yourself. You mentioned the fact that building these things is also kind of like providing a legacy. You talked a little bit about how you're kind of like this connection with your kids. But as you think about being a physical maker, I know something that's really common is people who work in front of a computer all day. People often joke that like programmers very often become carpenters and stuff like that. Could you talk a little bit about like, do you see value in the physicality of working with your hands as an information worker? Because you mentioned that like you're less concerned about this for plumbers and other people who do physicality as part of their job. Do you feel like doing something physical helps you as an information worker just in terms of your stress or your body? Is that something that's ever come up for you, or is it not something you thought about so much?
Yeah, I think it's a high that you get when you're building with something physical, and then you're able that element of your body easily transfers over the work, because now it's like I kind of think of like tackling tasks as like a fire, right? So like you're building a fire, and so like in the essence of like when you're building a fire, you start with kindle, right? You're not throwing full on logs. So you're starting with Kindle, you're working your way up the branches. You might throw some leaves here and there, but ultimately you're working the logs where you can tackle something heavy. And so I think something as simple as, like, let's say you cut your day and you did something in the wood shop where, like, you're working physically with your hands, you're moving, you're listening, you're finding a synergetic feel in yourself where, like, all right, cool, everything's just sort of working. And then, you know, you come out of it and you're like, I accomplished something today. And then boom, let's say now you got to go and move on and go into work. It's not a problem. Like, all right, cool. I've already knocked out some great things today. Now I'm going to sit down and, like, tackle these couple of tasks. Right. And so I think there's that. I think the physicality of it, though, just looking at all the areas as far as, like, hey, the measurements of something, calculations, things of that nature, getting your brain working in that way. And then realizing, okay, cool, I can transfer this over to work and be just as methodical and look at it, all these different things. Am I checking all my boxes? Sometimes people, it's like it's a process. Maybe when you're going down there, you realize, oh, I make lists for this and I've got this drawn out and so on and so forth. And maybe you might actually transfer that over to the information tech world, right? So you're like, okay, you know what? I realize I do this down here. I could probably be doing this every day in the job, right? So it's just, that's cool. It's one of those things is like, it just helps you sort of build your way of working in a different fashion, and you can just transfer it.
Yeah, that reminds me of, like, every day when I work out in the morning, which is infrequent these days, I have a great rest of my day because I've got all those dopamine and whatever else it ends up being. And I hadn't thought about that. But the days when I go over my lunch break and work on something in the workshop, I'm like, the rest of the day is a lot better because my brain has reset. Because, you know, often you get that afternoon point where you're, like, burning out a little bit. When I go do something there, I'm revitalized and my brain is... I think it's like a reset when you put your brain in a different space to think in a different way. Like, even if it weren't specifically affecting the type of work you're doing, just giving your brain that space to, like, do something different and also to have an accomplishment. Like, I think one of the biggest things, I wish the exact phrase I can remember, but my dad would always say, like, basically one of his biggest things for us in life is you should always, like, look back at the work you did with pride. And it's not his phrase. I wish I could remember it. But it's basically like, he was trying to teach us, like, don't just do the thing half-assed. Like, do the thing to a degree where you look at it and you go, I'm really proud of what I did versus, like, I got it done, right? Yeah. And it kind of reminds me of this a little bit because it's often very difficult to feel this full level of pride in something that is purely virtual, that is owned by somebody else, that is, and it might be for a programmer, but it might be for anybody else who works on the computer, right? It's in part because it belongs to being some big nameless, faceless corporation instead of you, or because it's on the internet instead of real person, whatever it is. I feel like there's a lot of part of jobs that don't give us that satisfaction of, like, I made progress and I can physically see that progress. Like, a lot of my systems, like, I have all my to-do lists in this giant bullet journal here because I can cross them off and I can see the previous day's crossed off items. And it's like progress because we're, like, searching for the ability to actually see a thing. So that makes a ton of sense for me. I had not thought about it that way. So I really appreciate that. We have a little bit more time, but we're close to wrapping. What else do you want to cover about this topic? Is there anything else we haven't gotten a chance to cover yet?
No, I think that's mostly it. I know it's like, a lot of folks are just thinking like how can you get started, or what should I start, or something like that. But I think in that sense, it's going to jump out at you. Just don't ignore it. I know it's probably already jumped out at you as the individual, and you just like, no, I can't do that because I don't have the tools, or I don't have the time, or it's in a particular place and I can't go and do it. And it's just like, I just want to encourage people just say yes to a few of those steps and just get started. That's the hardest part about most of this. It's not even the fact that it's like learning it. It's the fact of just starting. But once you start and you get into that gear of like, all right, cool, now I'm going to take this next step and I'm going to do this. It's going to sort of take on itself if it's something that you start to truly enjoy. And at the same time, if you're sort of trying something out and it's not happening, then don't be afraid to be like, all right, cool, this is not for me. Like, I think with me, particularly in furniture, like in carpet and like just woodworking, I think I gravitate a lot towards the furniture because it's very challenging. And I like the carpentry piece, but I know there's a few areas of it where I'm like, no, this is too much. Or like, like for example, like the box, I love building it for somebody. So like if the win is to kind of like be a profound effect on someone else's life, I'll do it again. But I think if it's for me, outside of having a physical need, I'll probably never go down this path unless I don't want to spend this much time on it. So like maybe for me, like furniture in certain areas is going to work and where it's not. I personally love like carpentry, like housing. Like if I can get another house project and just be like, let me just knock down this room and rebuild it really quick. I love that stuff because I don't have to go too deep into, all right, what's the measurement, what's the angles? It's like, I just got to do busy work. Just let me just rough it in. Let me do this. And I'm going to enjoy the experience of watching it come to life just the same. Right. So it's like, you don't always have to get too deep into the thing to be the ultimate expert. I think that's a lot of things what people chase too. They chase trying to be an expert. Don't have to chase that. Just do it to enjoy it, get to a certain point that you like it, and then just keep rolling and get your feet off of that. Right. And then also don't think of it as something that you have to change into a job. I know a lot of people do that. They're like, oh, I can do this. And a lot of folks instantly kind of say, oh, well, now you can make
side hustle.
Make side hustles and make end tables or make this. And I'm like, for what? Right.
Or don't.
Because now you're going to add added stress that you don't need. Right. So if you can keep it as a hobby for as long as you can, then keep it as a hobby for as long as you can. And then kind of treat it as your love, right? And like as a person you physically love. If you love somebody, you don't want to make it cheap by introducing money into the deal, right? You just just keep it as something that you love, and it's kind of like a thing between you and it, and just ride, right?
And you don't ever want that love relationship to be an obligation, right?
No,
you don't
never.
Oh, well, I have to go love my spouse. You don't want to have to.
I think that's
one of the cool things about your decision not to set a timeline on the toy boxes, so that you didn't ever feel obligated. You're like, I'm going to do this when this is what I'm motivated to do, and I have energy for it. I'm ready. So that makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, I got one more question for you, which is, what insight or support did you receive or need when you were younger that you hope more people will give to others?
So the things that stuck out to me, and this is probably going to go back to learning a bit. The things that stuck out to me as a kid is first of all, I felt like I didn't know anything. I was just floating around in space, and just doesn't make half of my decisions didn't make any sense. But I think the things that stuck out to me were the moments where someone went out of their way to kind of check me in a good way when I was doing something wrong. Right. And it's not like when you're doing something bad, but when you're straying away from the usual. Right. So it could be something if a friend was going to do it, it could be something as simple as you go into school and your sneakers are dirty, and they'd be like, yo, fam, why are you coming to school with your dirty sneakers? Hey, yo, this is what you got to do. You got to clean the soles, use a bleach, use a toothbrush. And I love that because in that essence is yo, I don't want to see you walking around here just looking halfway. I want you to become correct. Right. So I love that essence. Another thing is just, having folks understand that you don't learn how you learn, and then they try to change the way how to teach you. So I remember having a math teacher to this day. It was a wonderful dude, and he would always explain it in a way that was step by step and make you do this until you got it 3 or 4 times. He wasn't trying to be the person that says, hey, if I give you this thing, just try to figure out the rest. He was like, no, I know this person needs a step-by-step instruction. So then he would give you a step-by-step instruction. Right? And then there's other people who would they would sort of okay, I understand this person doesn't understand it like this. So let me put it in a place where they understand it. So I think for today's folks, I would say, hey, make sure if you see something wrong, just politely help correct it. Right. And that'll last with them forever. And then if you are if someone asks a general question that you think they should know, just provide grace and space for that, and just say, oh, okay, cool. They don't know. Let me fill them in on it. And then if they keep following up and asking those questions, then just let it flow. Right. Because ultimately you're doing 2 things. They're getting the knowledge that they need, but then they're also getting the way how it's taught. And then they'll go and teach somebody else in the same sense, because that's how they were treated. That's basically the foundation for how I teach people today. It's the same reason.
Love it. That's so good. I don't have much to say about it, but I just want to acknowledge that what you just said about the how to teach them has just got my brain rolling about how I teach my kids. So thank you. Yeah. I usually tell everybody, I was like, this podcast ends up being therapy for me almost every single time. So, all right. So if people think you're amazing, they want to follow you, they want to see the stuff that you're building or anything else, where should people go follow you?
I'm pretty active on Instagram. So I'm at Shawn_Jones on Instagram. I don't know why I use my regular name, but I just do. So yeah, at Shawn_Jones on Instagram. Everywhere else, Twitter and GitHub and stuff, I'm basically at DarkBoyWonder pretty much anywhere else. So Instagram's the only place where I'm special.
All right, we'll put them all in the show notes. And you do have, I think you have a pin story on Instagram with stuff about the toy box, right?
Yes, I got a pin story on there.
So if anybody's interested in checking out this specific toy, and you really should, because we haven't done a nearly good enough job of just describing how complex the shapes on the front of this toy box are. You got to check them out. So we'll have links to all these things in the show notes as always. And Shawn, thank you so much for making time, especially on a summer Friday. Tighten doesn't work on Fridays, and Shawn is hanging out here with us. So thank you so much, man. It was a total pleasure having you.
It's been great. It's been fun.
All right, and for the rest of y'all, until next time, be good to each other.